Formative and summative assessment are two types of assessments that have really turned into buzzwords in education. So we want to take a moment just to lay out the definitive characteristics of each kind in direct relation to one another. The first, let's start with summative. The purpose of a summative assessment is that it gives information to teachers, parents, administrators, general community about how a student is doing. And so that data is used by teachers and parents to make decisions about grouping or about a program. Formative assessments, the primary user is the learner. And so the learner or the student is using that data to make decisions about what they know, what they need to practice, and what they really need to focus on learning. So the fundamental difference is that primary user. To do that, it does affect the logistics. So summative assessments tend to happen at the end of instruction because a teacher wants to find out, did they get it? Did they not? A formative assessment is really given during instruction so that the learner still has time to improve their performance before they actually get evaluated. Summative assessments are really of the learning. And what do we mean by that? They are of the what. Did the student get what was actually instructed? Formative assessments are for the learning process. So they are absolutely designed to promote learning. Summative assessments, by design, result in evaluative feedback. So I might get a grade, for example. Formative assessments result in descriptive feedback. So they are designed in showing a student what they already know, what they need to practice, and what they need to still learn. Summative assessments are really about having that evaluation. So it's an autopsy. Once I get graded with evaluative feedback, there's nothing I can do as the learner to improve, and retakes and things like that are not a part of that process. Formative assessments are a prescription and diagnosis relationship. So the child knows what the clear target is, and then they are given enough data or diagnosis. This is what you know, this is what you need to practice, this is what you need to learn, so that they can improve their performance before the actual assessment. So the patient is still alive, we can do treatment. Which brings us to one of the last features of a formative assessment. Formative assessments, because they're descriptive feedback, celebrate the learning, no matter how small. When a child is organizing their feedback and they can see, I know this, and then they can see, I need to practice this, I'm close. Or they see, I still need to focus on these things, I need to learn this. They can celebrate what they know, and they can be in control of their own learning. So that creates a little bit of a self-navigation, a self-regulation behavior. Summative assessments, if they are resulting in a grade, in many cases it might be a 100-point scale, which has a punitive system. So even if a child learned 50% of the material, on a summative assessment, which is graded in a punitive way, a 50 is equated with a failure. And so even though the child may have worked really hard and may have learned 50% of the material, that's not the kind of social emotional response they're going to get from a summative experience. So it doesn't promote that self-regulation, it promotes that evaluation. And often children will end up having to make a choice. I am good at this or I am not good at this, which has a different neurological impact. One of the purposes of summative assessments is to sort children. It's a creation of the industrialized era, and so they want to sort A and B students from C, D, and F students. So there's a sorting technique. We do things like use the 100-point scale or averaging grades, which is designed to actually penalize students who take longer to learn the material. These techniques are not used in formative assessments. Formative assessments don't have the need to sort children. It is strictly to improve the learning experience. So a formative assessment is for the learning process. And so the techniques there are about having crystal clear targets and timely feedback about how well a learner is moving toward reaching those targets. Formative assessments and summative assessments can be distinguished between the relationship to the what. One of the biggest differences is summative assessments focus on the what. What is the child supposed to be learning, and has the child actually learned it? So a summative assessment will tell you, yes, the child got all of the science standards, or no, the child did not. A formative assessment gives feedback on two levels. It talks about the what, so you're going to find out about those science standards and the science targets. But you will also get feedback on the how. How is the child learning it, and how is that working for the child or the learner? So that means formative assessments are going to get into the territory of learning strategies. So not only do I know I have a science target, but I will think about what are the learning strategies I can use to learn this? Which ones am I picking? If I knew all the targets, maybe I need to try focusing on a learning strategy I'm not as comfortable with. Or if I don't know all these targets, I need to turn toward a learning strategy that I'm very comfortable with. Formative assessments help students think about not only what they're developing in terms of the discipline, but also stretch their own learning range so that they can improve learning in all discipline areas.